Hello and welcome everyone to the Chip Builder Series. This is Scott Meyer from Chip, and so excited to have one of our featured Chip Chat builders, Shaun, who is helping people to get on the microphone and share their knowledge through podcasts and his podcast aids. So Shaun, welcome to the interview and great to have you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, of course. So tell us where in the world you are and sort of how you got to this place of building with AI.
Okay, so I'm based in near Doncaster in South Yorkshire, and so that's in the UK for the locals. They'll know where I am. And I got into this actually. I guess, probably a bit of an accidental social entrepreneur. Going back a few years, ended up getting involved in a community media company, and so we do community radio at the moment. That's our primary thing. But we've started this year doing community podcast training, and through one or two groups that I'm in, I met up with Chris Cowden. He's got a lot to answer for, that guy. And Chris introduced me to Chip. And so I had a little play on Chip. And after just a couple of little practice sessions, I could really see the power and the potential of it. I was very excited. And I thought about how can I make something a little bit more meaningful? And one thing I'm really trying to do is to help and encourage and support people who are in social enterprise, either starting out or in it, but wanting to expand and to grow their organization. So I thought one of the things I'd had a challenge with was doing the business model canvas. So my first real sort of chip chat, where the serious one, was the BMC. And you very quickly picked up on that and you gave me some feedback on it. I made some tweaks, improved it very quickly. And that enthused me to look even further into what I could do that was actually in line with what I'm doing really right now. And that's the podcast training for people. So I set about doing the podcast aid and breaking down the process for getting the idea out of your head into a meaningful product, or at least a meaningful starting point, in not much more than 10 steps. Now, each step's got a few sub-steps because you need to be guided along the way. But the fact that you could turn, I think, a typical ChatGPT type user will go on and they'll use AI, very much like my own introduction to it, would fire in I need to do this, give me the answer. And that was the basic interaction with ChatGPT or with AI generally for many of us. Using Chip, I just discovered the amazing way that it flips that. You can build a really detailed prompt set, which I've done with this particular one. And it gets the chat is asking the questions. So the AI is asking the user for input. And then the AI is processing their input and gives them some feedback. And I just love it because even practicing with it, I knew what I wanted certain outputs to be. But it also challenged me because it gave me suggestions. And that just made me want to play even more and more. And then I've started putting that out now to people I'd call it like a work in progress right now. But putting it out to users. We've got our next cohort of training coming up next month. And the first thing I'm going to do, they're all going to get podcast aid. And they'll be given that as their homework pre-starting of the course, because that actually will take, I think, in the region of maybe an hour to an hour and a half worth of classroom session out of the loop, because they come in with the brain already primed.
I love that. And I think that one thing we've noticed is it's almost like a flipped classroom in school, right? Where people work and then come talk about it because they don't have to ask you not the silly questions, but things they could explore on their own first. Mm-hmm. So were there any big surprises or takeaways as you kind of started using AI?
I think probably the biggest takeaway is how, with a little bit of thought when you're building, you can get so much more out of it. And you can, within Chip, you can sort of force the steps process. And that was one of the things that I picked up on a session that you'd done and shared with the users, where you're asking the AI to stop and to wait for a further follow-up prompt or for an action. And so it doesn't just run off. If you're not careful, you can just get reams and reams of information, which is then hard to process. But building it with a little bit of thought and some structure to it, you can get it to do it in steps. But it's also, it seems to be quite useful in that if the user answers one of the questions that are within the prompts, it recognizes that. So it doesn't ask that prompt and then kind of get into a repeat loop. It picks up on that and it gives them the response based on what they've said. And then we're building it now to make it to have suggestions, recommendations in it. And it's just really, really exciting, Scott, to see how it develops. I just don't have enough time at the moment to put in the hours that I would like to do to sort of test it and refine it and test it. But I picked up last year on something that somebody says to us, 7 out of 10 is the new perfect. And that's why I've released this now into sort of anybody on Chipp can access it, because I want people to use it whilst it's imperfect, and they will help me to refine it and we'll build it together.
That's perfect. Yeah. And you can go to the Chipp Explore page. It's one of the featured chats. So it's pretty easy to find. But I'm curious, it sounds like your background isn't, as a developer or a coder. So what would you tell people who, don't think about themselves as builders?
If I can do it, anybody can. So I'm just in that position, Scott, where I just think I wish in a way I was 25 years and coming into this now, because there's so much potential with this. And AI is not going to go away, so there's no point being frightened about it. You need to embrace what it can do for you and make it work for you. And for me, as a social enterprise manager or person that runs that organization, we don't have a lot of time. It's all done by volunteers. So it's done by people who are enthusiastic about it, but each of them has varied skill sets in their day-to-day work. And this can draw on that using the AI prompts, being able to share that with people with different expertise or experience. We can use their skills and abilities to help develop it. What does it do for you that you couldn't do? Or what can you do that we could actually help it to do for other people? And then it accelerates learning and accelerates outputs.
That's amazing. Well, what would your final thoughts be for someone thinking about getting started with AI, whether it's Chipp or other tools? You're kind of dipping your toe in and now going all in with your course. So,
well, I'm well and truly in. This month I'm doing the 30 days no code
perfect
program. So that's kind of diving in again a little bit out of my comfort zone, but into something that I'm really excited about, seeing the potential. So I would say to anybody that's considering it or that's frightened of it, just give it a go. Find 2 or 3 products that are in that genre and work on them. Don't get bogged down with so many, because there are so many out there. Look at what you would like to improve or to accelerate your learning in. Find 2 or 3, refine that, and when you get good at that, then pick your next one.
That's amazing. Well, Shaun Bennett, creator of Podcast Aid, one of our favorite Chipp chats. We love seeing people use it in new ways. And thanks for being a user and for inspiring us to build today.
Thank you very much, Scott. Take care.
Cheers.